All right. Just jumping in, Tyler, before we even start, just being in the World Trade Center, fortunately, Barstool had the honor and privilege this past weekend to host the FDNY NYPD hockey game, the 49th edition. So shout out to our finest and bravest. Pretty awesome event. Chevy, Pizza Hut, Gallo helped us put on a pretty amazing event. And if you're wondering, guys who put out a fire for a living, pretty good on the ice. FDNY won for the 6th straight year. So pretty impressive. And Tyler, I know you've been working in the financial industry your entire career. Some places you could probably see right around here. Love to hear a bit more about your background, what you've done, landed at MoneyLion. What does that look like?
Sure. So Tyler Munson, I'm at MoneyLion. I'm the VP of growth there. And I've been in financial services my entire career. So I started as a WE analyst at Wells Fargo several years ago, spent a stint at Goldman Sachs helping them launch their consumer business, and was VP of marketing for their invest business on the consumer side. And then decided that I wanted to do something much more fast-paced, much more high growth. So I joined MoneyLion about 6 months ago, and it's been a nonstop blast ever since.
Awesome. First question, first topic. No lack of financial news in the past year, to put it lightly. A lot of Twitter doom scrolling, whether it's inflation in one ear, the R word in the other, the Silicon Valley bank run, the FTX debacle. Two topics there. One, what do all those mean in a quick hit to you as a marketer? Second piece to that is the one thing they probably all have in common is trust and the consumer lack thereof, right? There's that question now that's out there, is my money safe? Probably more prevalent than ever. What does that mean to you as a financial marketer? How does that impact your day-to-day? What does that look like?
Sure. So you rattled off three very large and meaningful events that are pretty seismic in the way that our financial institution has been viewed by consumers and institutionals alike. And you would think that those are a decade's worth of change that has happened, and those have all happened in the past 12 months. So what that really means is that as a financial brand, we now no longer only have to convince people to, hey, just open an account with us or start using us for the first time. We really have to start over with the trust spectrum. And so I think one of the things that, if you think about a brand like MoneyLion, we have to fight the headwinds of people not necessarily knowing our brand. People need to understand what our product is, and people also need to have trust in our brand. So I don't know if anybody has looked at a website recently of a financial institution, but pretty much all of them say a flavor of you can trust us, we take your security seriously, and FDIC insured. And what we are really trying to do, and what I think we'll start to see a lot more of out of financial services companies particularly, is repositioning their brand and their value proposition from being just hey, I'm going to tell you how I'm safe and how I'm the thing to use. And we'll probably see a lot more of experiential improvements and a lot more user-based kind of user story and reformatting of, hey, here are a bunch of products that we have, and here's how they actually can help you succeed financially. And that's how we've really started to reposition our own brand.
Yeah, that is a lot for 14 months, and I'm sure at the upfronts this year, there's probably 2 streaming shows somewhere in the FTX debacle on the Silicon Valley Bank. Next topic, curious from your perspective, to your point, there's a lot of competition in the financial space. How are you guys stay scrappy? What are you guys doing as MoneyLion? How are you leveraging different guerrilla marketing tactics, different data tactics? What does that look like for you guys?
Sure. So I think we've heard a lot. I heard Alexa earlier mention owning your first-party data and how that's really going to be the new wave, especially as we have this cookieless environment in the future. And that's exactly what we've been really focused on in our own company over the past 6 months, really, since I've joined. So prior to my arrival at MoneyLion, we bought a company called Even Financial. So if you've ever looked for a loan offer on the internet and found an SEO optimized site with a bunch of rate comparison tables, that's what we do. And that is enabling us to collect a large amount of first party data so that we can actually do our own segmentation, our own persona creation, and actually use that for retargeting, push those to our ad platforms, our paid social platforms, and use those as seed audiences. And because we have so much of that data, we have millions and millions of these customers that come in every month, we're able to get much more efficient with our acquisition budget. So instead of paying Facebook to get lookalike audiences for us or just do pretty much random targeting for our media budget, we're able to actually use people that we already know are super high intent and know exactly what type of financial need they have and present a creative that totally matches that need. So we're really focusing on top of funnel awareness, content marketing, and then doing a lot of down the funnel performance marketing. And that's allowing us, now we have about the majority of our ad spend is actually in that mechanism right now. And we're seeing a lot of efficiencies. We've seen about a 30% decrease in CAC since we've started implementing that strategy across our paid channel. So it's been really, really efficient for us.
Awesome. And speaking to your point about top of the funnel, I think you guys really unique acquisition as well for MoneyLion in purchasing Malcolm Media last year. I think when I look at Barstool, like we're at the forefront of content and commerce, and we're doing a lot in combining performance advertising and content advertising. So you guys went out, I think, for a financial company, pretty interesting purchase, buying a company that produces Mike Tyson's Hot Box, shows on Netflix, other kind of premium branded content. First question one, have you met Iron Mike? And if so, how was it?
I unfortunately have not. I don't know if Jeff Romer's here. He said he was going to make an appearance, but that's on my list, is to meet the celebs of Malka. It was one of those things when I was joining MoneyLion, I had a conversation with the CEO, and they made this massive purchase of a media company. And I've never heard of a financial services startup or bank doing that. And it struck me as really kind of odd. And I wanted to understand sort of the rationale of like why that would be a thing. And he explained it to me very simply, and it made a ton of sense. And it's been awesome to see come into reality ever since I joined, which is, how many people like go out on the internet and look for an answer of like, how should I invest, or how do I do a backdoor Roth, or, do I need to pay down my student loans? And what people do is they go on TikTok, or they ask their financial advisor, or they go on Google and they search, and then they have to actually make the decision in a whole other place. And so the sort of like next wave of innovation that we're really trying to tackle is bringing in the education part of it and doing it in a really fun and dynamic way, and then taking away that abstraction of the decision and bringing it right into the same mobile app. And so one of the things that we've been able to do is use that great media arm with like big name celebrities, really great in-house content creation agencies, and put that in a very dynamic feed where we can use that first party data I was just talking about, do really robust like AI segmentation of what we think your intent is and what we think you're trying to learn, and then bring CTAs around that content so that we can have not even just, hey, the install is the event that we're really trying to optimize for, but we're actually trying to optimize for the decision and that financial account actually being open. So it's still in flux. We've been working on that for about a year, but it's been really cool to see the evolution of the product for sure.
Staying there for a sec. So what is that like, right? There's probably a ton of marketers in the room. There's not a lot of brands that get to have the growth marketer, the brand marketer, and a true content team who's putting out a real consumer product. How are you guys going to brainstorms? What does that look like? Talk us through that.
It's awesome. I highly recommend, if you're on the brand side, that you totally convince your C-suite to do it. I see our director of brand here in the audience. About 4 weeks ago, rather, we got approval to do a last-minute brand campaign, as I'm sure a lot of people are experiencing tighter budgets. So this was a big win for us. So we sat down, and our audience, if you're not familiar, is super like subprime, near prime customers that are really pretty much struggling financially. And so rather than doing some big splashy advertising campaign where we bought a bunch of TV spots, we really tried to go hyper local and really center around what we think the core problem of our customers is, which is, how do I use my money and how can I hack my finances so I have more money? And so we got in a room the first day. I was like, there's no way that this is launching in 2 weeks. There's no way we can do it. But because we had the media agency and the creative team in-house, and we had that team fully staffed, and they have that muscle built of how to churn this stuff out so quickly, we were able to create an entire ad campaign in 2 weeks and launch it. If you are in the New York local area, go check out a couple of areas around Union Square. There's some dollar bills plastered all over the place, and you can scan for a chance to win. But it's been really awesome. And so because we have that tight-knit group of the media agency, and then we have a really close working relationship with our product team, we were able to integrate this very like robust experience relatively quickly and do something pretty scrappy with like very little top of funnel budget available.
Very cool. Personal question for you. So you worked at a ton of traditional banks in your career. Now you're on the new wave with kind of the digital first financial companies, which there's a plethora of them. So there's no shy of competition for you guys, no shy of competition for the traditional banks. What does that look like? How does it compare working at a Goldman or a Wells Fargo to working at a company like MoneyLion?
It's very different. My boss at Goldman very infamously said at a conference that traditional banks are screwed if they don't get with the times. And I really do believe that. And it's not for lack of trying, but I think what we're seeing, particularly as we try and go out into the wild and acquire these customers and create resonating marketing campaigns for them, is that it's such a saturated space, and there's really not that much differentiation from a product perspective. We just saw Apple launch a really high yield savings account this week, which is not necessarily differentiated for any other reason other than the fact that it's natively in your phone and it has a higher rate than everybody else. And so if you can't compete on price and you can't compete on like a robust integrated experience like that, the question is, how are you actually going to compete? And so what we're really leaning into is financial education and really making our ads and our acquisition funnel less about like, hey, there's this product, just go get it. And more about here's how you can get out of this cycle that you're in, which typically for our customers, unfortunately, is needing money and access to credit on a very regular basis to cover their basic expenses.
Yeah, so you tell me banks could have always gave us 4% instead of 0.25% in our checking account.
Yeah, I think that's right. So.
All right. What's one thing for the next year that really excites you that MoneyLion's kind of jumping into?
Sure. I think it's actually the data pipeline that I spoke about. So we are running what I would call a very MVP approach of this. So we've got some of our ad partners hooked up to it already. We want to do a lot more with that. And we, I think 3 years ago, if you heard somebody say in marketing say the term like, oh, we're using AI targeting or anything, you'd call BS as like a buzzword, like, okay, what does that actually mean? But I think we're at a point both with the tools that we have implemented here at MoneyLion and just more in a broader industry sense that we can actually use that first party data and our back-end conversion. And because we own all of that data already, we don't have any identity resolution problems like you would if you just go out into the ether and kind of pluck people. So we're actually able to start doing that AI model ourselves, which is going to, I think, and I hope, allow us to continue to bolster our targeted efforts and start to do much more robust creative targeting for customers in specific user states. And I really do think that we have the team to do it, and I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Very cool. Staying on MoneyLion for a sec, you guys have some pretty cool NASCAR partnerships. You guys are getting deep in the NIL space. For you as a performance marketer, like how do you look to leverage assets like that? How do you kind of get the most out of it? I know it's very brand focused, but hey, as a financial institution, you're always trying to get a new customer. What does that look like?
Sure. So I think that we're pretty broad right now in our brand moments, and that has to do with the fact of where we are in the company continuum, right? We went public about a year ago via SPAC, but you can think of us really as like a Series C startup. So we have a very limited top of funnel brand budget that we're trying to make the most of. And so what we do is we try to be really targeted with our brand activations in those moments. We're trying some larger sponsorship opportunities out, which I think have been relatively effective. And so what we'll look to do over the coming year really is to continue to find ways to activate those audiences and do that in a much more robust way. So I'm really excited to see how that comes to fruition as well.
Awesome. Know everybody's hungry, so throw.
Yeah, I see the sandwiches in there, so we'll keep it short.
If not, we could probably head to lunch if there's no questions in the crowd. All right. Thank you, Tyler.
Cool. Thanks.